Well, hello, welcome back, designers. Today is all about alignment. Let's get started. We're going to go to File, Open. On your computer, we're going to go to the Courses, Art, Print Shop, Illustrator Lessons, and there should be a file all the way towards the bottom called Alignment Lesson, and click Open. All right, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to turn the grid on if it isn't already. So as you can see on mine, it's on. I'm going to show you how to turn it off and on. So it's actually quite simple. We're going to go to View, and you should see mine right now says Hide Grid because I've got the grid on. Yours probably look like this. So you'll go to View, Show Grid. So stop the video and do that now. All right, while we have our grid on, let's go ahead and save this. So File, Save As. We're going to save it in the cloud, in your Lessons folder. Call it with your first name and Alignment, and click Save. All right, so the reason we turned our grid on is because it's going to help us line up our different text box elements. So you have to remember, in every type of layout design that involves text, you're dealing with two different types of alignment. First, you are dealing with the alignment of the different elements on the page. So whether it's a shape or a text box or a line, all of that has to line up. In addition to that, we have text box alignment, and they're not always the same thing. So your text box alignment might be left aligned, but it doesn't mean it's on the left side of your document. And we'll talk more about that when we get into business card design if we haven't already in class. But let's first start by doing a basic little bit of review here, talking about alignment, opening up the control panel if it's not, and talking about text box alignment. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to make sure our control panel is open up on the top. So you have your basic control panel here, but we're going to open up a new panel today. We're going to go up to Window, and we're going to scroll down till we find the Type panel, and you'll notice with Type there's several panels, so they've kind of sandwiched them together. We are going to be clicking on the Paragraph panel. So this should be popping up. So let's just break this down. Stop the video now, open up this panel. All right, so with this, you have some basic alignment options that you guys are used to in any major document program, whether it's Google Docs or Word or PowerPoint. They all have these basic types of alignment. So you have left aligned, you have align center, you have right. And then from there, the next groupings is the justify. So remember, justify means that it's going to space it out so it's left and right aligned. So it's easier to show you these justify when we get into the different type boxes. So let's go ahead and do that now. We're going to grab our selection tool, and I want you to click on the first box to the left. And we're just going to double check. We're going to make sure it's left aligned. All right. While we are in here, we're also going to switch to the character panel. So it's left aligned, and we're going to switch on to the character panel because we're going to review a couple things here really fast in the character panel, and this should be review. So the first thing we're going to do is talk about the leading here. So the leading is the spacing between your lines. So right now, as you can see, I can resize my box if I wanted to. If I resize it and I get a little red notification with a minus sign, it means that there's more text that's not fitting in this box. So one way to solve that is to resize the text box. The other way is to change the modifications here. So with our left box selected here, we're going to take this, which is your leading, we're going to take it down. Oops, going the wrong way. So notice when I go down to size 10, it's shrinking the space between the letters. If I increase it, it's going to space them out. So stop the video, and I want you to change that, your leading number to size 10. All right, excellent. Now, while we still have this box selected, I want to show you what this next box is, which is your tracking. And tracking has to do with the spacing between the letters and your words. So if I decrease this, notice it's going to start squishing them together. And in fact, I can squish them down so much that my letters actually start to overlap. So stop the video, and I want you to go to -40 or 41 now. Okay, now we're going to zoom in just to see what that does. Notice if you decrease you're tracking that much, it can be really hard to read your words. And that's why it's really good to know both the leading and the tracking, because when you're switching different fonts, sometimes you have to fine tune those things. So I'm going to say that I think the tracking is way too low here. I'm going to bump that back up. And I'm actually going to go positive to 27. So stop the video. So we're going to have our leading set at 10 points and our tracking at 27. All right, excellent. So let's go ahead and let's cover back through the rest of our types of alignment. We're just going to scroll down. I want you to click on the next text box down. Click back over to your paragraph panel. And this time we're going to change this to center aligned. So notice when you have center aligned, the edges of my text box are not even on either the left or right. In fact, all your text is actually lining up and down the center. All right, so stop the video and try that now. All right, we're going to scroll down. Next one down. Now we're going to right align. Notice it shifts everything to the right. So if I zoom out, I've got left align, I've got center align, and now I've got right align. Stop the video and use those three types of alignment now. All right, now let's get into the justify. Justify is just easier to show you than to explain. So we're going to click on the top left. And there's 4 different justify options. So justify, again, it's going to left and right align everything. So justify really only works when you have a big block of type like this. And your justify options are over here, starting with this one here. So if I click on justify left, you'll notice what it does is it spaces everything out so my margins are even, and then what that left is it's going to take the very last line and it's going to shift whatever is left over on that last line and it's going to left align it. So stop the video and justify left, that box. All right, the next one down, we're going to justify center. So if we click justify center, again, you'll see what it does here. It left and right aligns it, and then that last line, it's going to center align it. And then you guessed it, on this one, we're going to justify right. All right, your last one is kind of the craziest one, and it really has an opportunity to work in design because it's really difficult to find text that works with it. It's your justify all. So what justify all does is it's going to left align and right align every single line, including that last line. So if I click on that, notice what happens is it's going to be forced to put gaps in. So what you end up with is this kind of gap toothy line. Justify all really only works if your last line is almost a complete line. So if I want, sometimes you can resize your box until it looks better. That looks better, but notice it still has an awful lot of gaps in here. So typically what happens with your justify alls, you have to resize that text box, okay? So stop the video and hit justify all, and I want you to shrink your text box until it looks good without lots of extra gaps in it. All right, now that you're back, let's talk a little bit more about the type tool and clicking and dragging, creating text boxes. So just a quick review. So remember, you can use your type tool one of 2 ways. This you don't have to do, I want you to just watch it. So for us, because we are starting to work with a grid and layout, you may actually want to click and define the text box. So if you click and drag to create a text box, I'm defining the margins of that box. So it's going to make sure that it fits in that space. You don't always want to do that in design, but when you're doing layout design in particular, when you're lining up texts and things and you know you need it to stay within this and this margin, dragging a text box is usually a good thing because you can't always, like I show you here, you can always resize it if you need to, okay? All right, the last thing we're going to talk about is not our text box alignment, but our alignment within the page. So there's 2 ways you can line your elements up. Number 1 is you can manually try to line them up. And if you have your smart guides on, you'll notice these pink lines. When I click and drag, it's going to show you where they line up with other boxes. But an easier way is to use your alignment options. So I'm going to show you how to align to an object and then also align to the artboard. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to click on the top left box, and then we're going to click on, we're going to hold down shift and we're going to click on that bottom box. So stop the video and try that now. Okay, and then we need to make sure that up here in our control panel, we have align to key object, because what it's going to do is it's going to align the bottom text box to the first, because we selected that one first. And then if you click on the left align, notice it lines both of them up. And then we're going to do that again. We're going to click here and here. And again, we're going to align. I'm just looking underneath here. And it's just lining those boxes up. And we're going to do that one last time. Oops. Oops. Holding down my shift. And I'm going to align left. Okay. I'm going to move this box here. I'm just going to resize it a little bit. You can resize it just because we're going to align these three boxes. All right, so we're going to do the same thing again. We're going to click on the top, the bottom, and we're going to left align. We're going to do that again, and left align. We're just lining them up all along. Oops. Let's do that one more time. There we go. That's how you line your boxes up. Now, if we wanted to make sure these were lined up, same thing. I would click here and here, and I would make sure it is aligned to the top. So that's how you work within your alignment there. We know that you can align to an artboard. We did that back with our apple tree lesson. This is showing you how to align to key objects, your boxes, making sure your different elements are lined up. All right, so stop the video and make sure you have them, all three columns here and these four columns here, left aligned to each other. All right, so let's talk a little bit about what's next for you. So you've got this done, you've got it turned into me in Google Classroom, and you've hit invite. You make sure you invited me to this file. Now we're ready to get started on our business cards. So you'll open up your template, and the first thing you're going to do is you're going to obviously delete this because you don't need that in here. You have not 8 different cards, but you have 4 fronts and 4 backs to your card. Think of the front of your card as like the cover of a book. It should be very basic. It can be just a graphic, or it can be your logo. It can be more to it if you want, but the fronts of the card are pretty basic, and the backs are where your information is. Remember, you have to have one means of contact, so whether that's a QR code, a website, a telephone number, you can have up to 3 means of contact, but don't go over 3 because then you're going to start to struggle. All right, the next thing I want you to know here is you're not creating 8 totally different cards. What I want you to do is I want you to create 4 different versions or ideas for the front and 4 different versions for a back. And then what you'll do is you'll pick your favorite front and your favorite back, and we'll move them onto here. All right? When you're working through this, my suggestion for you is leave these cards with the drop shadow as is. You can add color to your background. You can also add other shapes and sizes in here. Also, you need to let your logo kind of guide you. So if it were me, I would make a copy of my logo. And use that rather than trying to recreate it again. So maybe this whole thing is my front just like this. This is going to be the front of my card. Your front can be really, really basic. It can be really, really simple. It's up to you. Do lots of copies. Copies are your friend. Play around with your different options. Remember, whites, blacks, and grays are neutral, so they kind of sort of don't count within your groupings. What you might want to do, just like you did with the logo design, maybe once you come up with one good cover, maybe you'll want to just delete these other ones. And once you have one good one, then you'll just make copies of that one, just like you did the logo. Thinking smarter, not harder. Oops. And then I'll just kind of tweak and change, try different things, see what happens if I make it that blue color. I'm just kind of playing around now. What happens if I put... Again, I'm just playing, tweaking things around a little bit. So just trying out different options. Maybe I'll try it without this, or maybe I'll rotate the text and see what happens if I, do that. So you're just kind of tweaking and changing, try different options. And then when you get to this box here, my suggestion to you is you can use what are called guides to help line things up in your card. This is the last thing I'm going to show you today, and then I'm going to let you loose to start playing around with your business card design. You can drag on guides. So to create guides, you do have to have your rulers on. So you'll have to go to View and Rulers, Show Rulers. And here's how you drag on a guide. If I click on the ruler, either the top ruler or the side, if I click and drag, I can create an invisible blue guideline. So when I'm creating my text boxes, I know that they're all going to line up because it's going to snap to that guide. So if I'm going to create a text box here, I'm going to create another one here, because I've used that guide, I know that they're going to line up. All right, so again, I'm going to show you. You just have to have your rulers on. So Rulers, Show Rulers, and then you just drag. So if I wanted to make sure I had a guide here, because I was going to have something line up here, that way I know that they are level. However, they're not level there, so I would want to drag another guide here. So guides are your friends. They do work really well so that you line your different elements up. All right. Think about your 4 principles: contrast, repetition, alignment, and proximity. Look at your examples. Again, as one last review, you need 4 different fronts, 4 different backs. Your fronts should be simple, eye-catching. Think of them like the cover of a book. Your backs are where you have to have your company name, your name, and 1 means of contact. So 3 things I'm looking for on your back. Then when you're happy, you will simply make a copy of your favorite front, and you will make a copy of your favorite back, and you will be done. That's it. If you have any questions, obviously, make sure you ask. Simple front, business name, your name, 1 means of contact. Thanks, guys. Good job.